Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Potter, and I am the host of the Living the Dream Video Summit. I am a musician, and I'm the director of the Million Kisses Foundation. So today, I actually have a wonderful, wonderful guest that I am way excited to interview because as soon as I heard about her and looked at her videos, I told her in an email that unabashedly that I have fallen in love. So I get to enjoy this woman, and so do you. I want to let you know that the reason for this summit this summer is that I have taken a stand. I've taken a stand that money is not a reason to walk away from a dream. And so it's so much easier said than done. So we have all sorts of excuses of why we're not living the dream. And so what I decided to do was to bring together successful entrepreneurs who are living the dream and to talk to us more about money and also the barrier around that, but also just to expand it, of eliminating all of our excuses of why we are not living the dream. I wanted to interview and ask every single one of these individuals one question: how are you living the dream? Tell us about it. Tell us your story. Tell us about the obstacles you've overcome. Tell us your successes. And my intent is that this audience becomes really excited and encouraged to live their own dream, because these are regular, wonderful people who have just said yes. So today I have the opportunity to introduce you to Nina Stone, and welcome, Nina.
Thank you. It's so privileged to be here. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. So Nina is coming to us from Maplewood, New Jersey, and she is so many things. She is an award-winning children's music artist. She's going to tell us more about that. She's an entertainer and a YouTube star of the Miss Nina weekly show. She has 13,000 subscribers just starting today. I mean, I know you're going to get so much bigger, especially after this video summit. 7 million views. She's been all over, and I'm so excited to just ask you lots of questions. And I actually have one particular question I want to ask you about to begin.
Great. Let's do it.
Nina, you have begun your story. Can you start with us? What's your history? Tell us about when you first started and you found what your dream is, and you're ready to just go on that place, the very, very, very beginning of the dream. Start at that point.
It's kind of, the very beginning of my dream is way, way back as a little girl. I was a dancer first. Dance was my first, I call it my first language. I always loved to dance, and I started classes when I was 3, and I was in a dance company growing up, and I went to college for dance. And so dance was my first part of the dream. And I moved to New York to be in musical theater and audition and do all the performing stuff. Right. And I certainly did some of it. I toured Europe with the show 42nd Street and did other shows and that sort of thing. But also I'm going to try and keep it kind of short, but as things went along, and as it's, not necessarily easy, and I have lots of stories I could tell, we all have survival jobs when you're trying to be a performer, as they call them then. And I was a terrible waitress. I was very, very kind, but I'm just bad at balancing trays. I'm 5'2". It's hard to get over tables and stuff. And so I always found my best. I enjoyed working with kids, and had this great job as my survival job one time at a place called Wonder Camp. It doesn't exist anymore, but in New York City. And I got to, I did kids karaoke and acted out stories and led the Macarena dance party and I had so much fun that when I was out on tour with 42nd Street in Europe the second time, I remember telling somebody that I missed my job, and they were like, "You're lucky." If there's something else that you like to do. And at that point I was not ready to be like, "You're right, let's just get rid of this whole side of performing and jump into the kids thing." But I started finding my way towards that. And I ended up going back to school for my master's degree in educational theater. And then, but then I was still performing and stuff like that. And I found when I was, the main thing that happened, or there's several milestones along the way, but one thing was when I was auditioning as a dancer, I could dance for anybody, and I loved to sing, but when I was in the audition room and had to sing, I completely choked. I was full of fear and full of it was just a terribly frightening experience. And I don't totally still know why. It was like I was in trauma almost, you know? And I have a whole, I like worked on that and everything. But what happened eventually was that one day, as my job, as a side job, I was working for Gymboree playing music, and you sing all your transition songs there, and you do that. And when it wasn't about me anymore, it was about the kids or the parents, or getting a kid or soothing a child with a song, or just getting everybody together, or watching parents, moms and dads and babies enjoying themselves singing Old MacDonald. Like, I had no problem singing. I had no fear. And so that was my first experience, was like leading a Old MacDonald on a Saturday morning to a bunch of moms and dads and kids on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, going, can I do this with my life? Like, what would that be? And, there's still a lot more came after that, but that was kind of that first seed of like, this is cool.
Okay, so thank you so much for sharing about how scared you were. That is so useful. This is an audience full of dreamers who we're scared. We get scared about really asking that question. Could I actually make this into my living? Could I actually live this dream? So I really appreciate that. In fact, I wanted to share with you, I asked some questions of the audience of what they want to hear from our performers and from our entrepreneurs during the summit. And that is one of them. Can you actually focus a little bit more on that? When you first started this dream, you had to overcome those fears, and tell the audience, tell me, how can you dissipate those fears? How did you, what's your process around that, so that you actually took the next step forward?
Well, I was thinking about this this aspect, because I think fear is a big word for a lot of different feelings. Like there's nervousness, there's anxiety, and then there's fear. And then there's like what I told you about what I was experiencing in that audition room. I was almost like traumatized. Like the fear was that big, you know what I mean? And at that time I too was like, well, I have to face this. I have to face this, or I'm not going to get through it. And I put myself, I was like, so, rather than going to this dance audition and sing at the end, I'm just going to show up to singing auditions and make myself do this. Oh, and the fear, like I would be shaking in the room, and, and I did do a lot of work around that. And those particular situations didn't get necessarily better immediately. But the difference between that and for me and working at Gymboree was two things. One was in the audition room, as I understand it, or as I felt it, it was all judgment. And it was just me having to prove myself or get to that high note or something. It was just about, it felt self-involved, and I was like contracting as a result, like I couldn't relax, and there was no joy then. Now that, for me, other people can get in there and have the time of their lives singing at an audition, and they light up. But for me, what it was there was something about the judgment and my own self-doubt, I suppose, that had me in total fear. Whereas when I was able to put my focus on others, or how I was serving, like it wasn't even like a mind trick, like think about how you're serving. It was just like, I just saw the result, and it wasn't about what was coming into me. It was what I was giving. That just really changed it all. So that was, what? I was gonna say that was huge. And then as far as things, but then there's different things. There's like nervousness or anxiety. I think that's a little different, a different, and I think there's something to be said about a little nervousness is good, that you just have to be like, thanks for sharing, and move on, because potentially your joy for what you really want to do is bigger than your nerves, and that you just have to get to it, because sometimes it's just the anticipation of starting, so whether it's like getting ready to sing and you're like, what's the audience going to say? Sometimes like it's just all the unknowns have me in fear and nervousness, and once I'm there, I'm like, okay, now I see you, and I know who's here, and I know what's happening, and I can enjoy it.
I really appreciate that aspect of what you're saying. fears of the unknown. And then when you just keep moving forward, then there's the knowns. Oh, there you are. Uh, it's quite an impactful thing that you just said. Then you continued on, and tell us more. So you have decided to specialize even more, so that it's your mission in life to bring joy to children with special needs. Tell us more about that.
That was a couple of things. So this whole thing I have felt very just moved to do, especially the video show. It's just something like, I mean, hey, I would love to have my own kids show like Romper Room was for me when I was little. I love the connection and a person talking to you. And in this day and age, you can have one. You've got I've got my MacBook and I've got YouTube and boom. So there's that. But I was, I was actually afraid to start. Same thing. I really wanted to do it, but I thought people would think this is weird. What's this grown woman doing? Why is this your pet? I just felt all that self-consciousness and everything. And then somebody asked me to come do music in the home for a 2-year-old girl who had cancer. And, for her and her twin brother. The twin brother was fine, and the little girl had cancer, so she couldn't go out and do anything because of her immunity. And her brother had to, so they were having teachers come to the home and stuff like that. And I came to find out that she was, when she was on the oncology unit getting her treatments, she had found one video of me that I had up at the time. It wasn't the show. It was just video of me with my pink guitar, and she loved the pink guitar from me coming to her house, and she would watch it on repeat. And that the nurses were like, somebody tell Miss Nina to please make another video. And it was again something that was oh, she needs me. It's not oh, I just wanted to do this, or what do people think? It's no, there's a little girl who this is helping her. And so I'm going to make these videos. And of course, all children, I love bringing joy to, everybody's got, who can't use more joy? But I have found I get lots of emails from either parents of children with special needs or who are medically fragile or something, that these videos are really helpful to, or helps them when they're getting treatments, or helps them in the morning. Sometimes for parents too, it just helps parents, they need a break in the car from their kid crying, and the video helps. It's just something about it being an instrumental tool, is really.
That's amazing. I'm sitting here imagining that I don't know anything about you, and I'm listening to you talk, and I'm specifically, again, very passionate. My passion is to encourage people to live their dreams, to take the dream walk. And I'm listening to you and thinking, wow, it's like she doesn't have any problems along her journey. She found what her joy is. She found how she can make the world a better place, and she's just doing it. The end. I know that probably isn't the way it worked out.
Right. No.
And yeah, it's so funny because as an audience member, we really want to idealize someone else's story, because it feels so good to be oh my gosh, she's living her bliss. I'm so happy for her. But for me, I can't, because it's so hard. Right. I have to go to my day job. So tell us a little bit about the nitty gritty, if you don't mind, because this is going to be the most useful for the audience to hear about when they're I know what my joy is too. I know how to make the world a better place, but I have my day job. I have priorities. And that's one thing our audience wants to hear more about too when they sign up for this. How did you prioritize? How did you get to that place? Did you have that day job and then you did it in the evenings? Tell us a little bit more how you made this now a full-on career.
So the first thing that happened was I was still pursuing theater, and acting and sing, and film, all that stuff. And I was working as a temp, as an administrative assistant. And I'm actually 46, so I was 30 something at the time, and kind of in that place of someday I will blah, 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 and I will finally blah, blah, blah. And I had this moment of someday, this is my life now. This is my life now. And I don't want to sit here doing a temp job and performing this. So how can I do what I love now and make some money? Maybe not. And so that's the first thing that happened was I just wrote down everything I loved to do, not just just singing dance, but I was like, I love kids. I love like working with children and everything. And that's how I actually first found the Gymboree job. And it was a few dollars an hour less than what I had been doing as a temp. So that wasn't like awesome, but it was still, it was a way to enjoy my day every day doing what I loved instead of waiting for this someday that I don't know, not, I mean, I don't want to, like, I didn't want to be negative, but at the same time, I had this like, but this right now I'm living my life. And like right now I'm not liking today. So how can I like today? And then from there though, there's bills and there's at the time in New York City, now I have a 4-year-old and a husband and everything. So, so I was a Gymboree and I had I kind of was like, this isn't quite, I became a manager because again, it was sort of like, I don't want to do something so stationary, but at the same time, how do you make more money? So I started saying yes to things I never said yes to before. That was the first one. And the second one was then an opportunity came up to work in a preschool doing what I did, like this mommy and me sort of thing. And I normal same thing, like a contract, like after being an artist, you know what I mean? And always being like, but I'm still freelance and I just need to pick up and go. Like to say yes to something like that was super scary. And then I had the experience of like, I mean, not all jobs are like this, but I was like, they were like, okay, well, because of the salary that you've asked for and everything, I can't give you this sort of contract. We have to give you an administrative contract, which means you'll only get 1 month off at summer instead of 2. And you only get 1 week off at Christmas instead of 2. And you only get 1. And I was like, what? Like I haven't had a paid day off ever. Like, it's amazing. Wow. And then that job, same thing. It was just sort of saying yes to these things that were close to what I enjoyed or had aspects of it, and trying. And that job became this laboratory where I started writing music. I didn't even write music before then. Like it's where this Miss Nina grew out of. It's like that job of me being like, oh, I hear a song to this book, and like, oh, we're doing this activity and I wish there was a song for it. And it just kind of grew up from saying yes to that. And then the last thing I'll say about it too is that I read this book, and I don't know if you're familiar with Jon Acuff, if that's how you say his name, but he wrote this book called Quitter, about like quitting your job and living your dream. Oh. And the first chapter is he's like, yeah, so the first thing is don't quit your job. And you're like, what? Yeah. And it's a powerful book though, because he talks about how like, when everybody kind of thinks like, cause I did the same thing. I wanted to quit that job because I was doing birthday parties on the weekends and private groups after my teaching job. And that's when I was married. I didn't have a child yet. So I could do that. And it felt very flush. And I felt, it was great, but it was like working all the time. And I wanted to quit my job, but he was like, there's some things in that book about like, like having a day job actually that's not in your field, that just brings in money, that doesn't require a lot of your energy, can actually be a great thing, because then you can, you're not worried then about the worry of, can I pay my mortgage? How am I going to eat? Can I feed my child? And then if you are married, the worry of your partner who's trying to not worry about you or let it affect them or whatever, it can have a strain on a relationship. There's so much that if you quit that day job, if you're all about like quitting the day job to 100% fully live the dream, can actually create stress. And he talks about, you lose the power of no, you lose the power to say no to things that actually don't serve you and serve your long-term goals, because you're so desperate for money that you just say yes to anything and devalue yourself and all sorts of things. I'm sort of all over the place about it, but it's a really powerful book because it made me go, okay, it's not time to quit yet.
That sounds so useful. And saying what you just said in a few words, I heard you say that you were willing to do whatever it took. And that means,
yeah.
And also, perhaps one of the things we get to do as a society is just really support and celebrate people who are keeping that day job so that they are living the dream. So building so that we say, yay for keeping your job, yay for eliminating all this stress, and then you're going to do whatever it takes for that dream to come true, because that is that is a consistent story that I hear over and over again. So let me ask you, from the beginning, when you first had those questions of, wow, can I actually do this as a profession, to who you are now, what kind of time frame are we talking? Has it been like a decade? Has it, how many years has it been now?
Let's see. Well, I started that preschool job in September of 2007.
Okay.
And so that's when I started like writing stuff and being like, and like I put out my first album in 2009 and started like recording in 2008. So that was that. The Gymboree stuff though, that was like 2005, 2006 when I like sat and was like, I wonder if I could do this with my life, sing Old MacDonald on a parachute. Like, so.
The reason why I am so grateful to hear that is because that's another thing that I want to celebrate in dreamers, is that sometimes our dreamers take a good solid decade or more to have the dream come true. Because what I believe is that those dreams deserve the time. Every job that you ever had has made you who you are now. Every little side job, it's just so much experience gathered into what we now know as Miss Nina. You're now able to be everything you are because you took the time and you delved in for over a decade. That's really admirable, and I feel like that's something we can celebrate as dreamers in the world too.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more? This is one of the reasons why I fell in love with you, and I use those words with everyone. So I
love it.
It's a profound way of just saying I admire you deeply. Can you tell us more about this really wonderful experience you had with Make-A-Wish Foundation?
Oh yeah, that was very recent. That just happened in April, and in November, I got an email from the Make-A-Wish Foundation saying, we've had I'm the music manager from the Make-A-Wish, and we've had our first request for Miss Nina. Am I contacting the right person? And I'm like, what? Like, amazing, And it was, oops, sorry, don't need that. And she wanted to be either in a live show with me or in a video. And at the time I just had some shows scheduled like in schools in the classroom at the moment. And I thought, well, that's not very exciting for her.
This is a girl who watched your YouTube's channel, and so she knew you, and this was her dream, is to be
her dream. She apparently received the email list. She's on the email list, I guess her parents are, or subscribes to YouTube and gets notified when I upload a new video. And so she just waits each week to get them. And she's 14 and has tuberous sclerosis and severe epilepsy. And so she operates on a 4 or 5 year old level as a result of tumors and things like that and brain surgery that she's had. What was really fascinating moving was that she doesn't have a lot of expressive communication, so she doesn't have a lot of words, but her music therapists who work with her usually teach her to sing something before she can speak it.
Wow.
So, and she's in the 8th grade and she's in the chorus, and like, cause she just loves to sing, and it's so beautiful. So, but I didn't meet her, see her, nothing until what I figured out was, because I have a certain amount of subscribers on YouTube, I became an official YouTube creator, and I have access to their New York space, and it's state-of-the-art equipment and everything. And talk about, like all your past efforts and failures lead to other successes. I've had access to this space, and I've gone in a couple times to be like, okay, I'm going to shoot something, and been like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I actually one time didn't know how to take the lens cap off because I'm always just shooting on my computer, and I know a little bit about lighting and I know a lot about performing, but I don't know a lot about cameras and green screens or setting things up and light. And just, so I had one day, probably last summer or something, that was just like a failure of a day. Like, I came home crying because I was just like, I have all access to this stuff. I just can't do it by myself. And I don't even have the know-how on who to hire to help me. And I don't even know that I can hire anybody to help. I was just like in this tizzy about it. But the good news was that I had that experience to know that I want to have this really amazing special day for Mary, rather than having her just come to my kitchen and shoot, like at my computer. Let's make it so super special. Let's go to YouTube and let me see if I can get people who will, and I was reading your website recently, Emily, so like you'll get, like, just put it out there to say, like, who wants to help? Like, who wants the gift of, like, of, I need somebody to help with the camera, and I want somebody to shoot behind the scenes, and help us light it. And it's all an exchange of love right now, guys. Sorry, because I want this wish to come true. And I probably could have asked the Make-A-Wish Foundation for it. I found out later, but whatever. I had a friend of a friend of a friend contact, and these guys showed up who worked together from Spry and Mighty, and they just donated their time. My friend, a woman who did my makeup for my photo shoot, was like, I'm in, and just came and donated her time and her expertise and her love and her makeup. And we just made, so we had Mary come to the studio. I met her. We had a little rehearsal. The guys had it all set up. She got hair and makeup with Jackie and kept going, Mary, beautiful, pointing to herself. And we came in and we shot the video. Her parents were there. My husband was there, and everybody. And and I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place, but I just have to express that, like, it was literally, I have never had, except for the birth of my child, okay, but as meaningful experience. And I've never been present in the room to that many people and that much love and kind of like reverence for the situation. Like these guys who I didn't know, who were just like, just there to serve, and we're all in. And there's no one's egos, and no one's, not that there would have been, I don't think anyway, these people are all just so lovely, but like there was no egos and there was no pretense and there was no anything. It was just like, let's just make this happen for her. And it was, my husband was crying. I thought every time I edited it, I'm crying. Everybody's crying when they see it,
I mean, I watched that, and I highly recommend this audience. We'll put a link for people to watch that. You were completely in your bliss.
Yeah.
So obvious to me that you had found your life calling, and this girl was absolutely in radiant joy. I could not watch till the end. And you're saying, I think 2 songs, and I just sat there like that through the whole thing. I couldn't not watch until the very end. And it was the sweetest moment. And I want to thank you. It's because of those moments that I even want to do this summit. Is how are you living the dream? Because that moment is it's priceless for this planet. It's what it's all about.
It's what it's all about. And you know what, I literally, I mean, we can connect the dots now to be like, oh, I did the videos every day and she watched them. But in terms of what I would say to anybody who had said, like, how did that occur? It's really been my consistency, I guess, of just showing up and weekly to the best of my ability. There's been times where I haven't done it, every week, but just showing up and being like, I've got to do this video this week,
Yeah, no, you're so right. Perfectly said. Perfect. Yeah. So I want to ask you one last question, and then we'll conclude. I want you to tap into the people listening to your story right now who are inspired, and knowing that you've overcome obstacles of fears, insecurities, a long road to get where you are, and that you're going to keep going. I know that's what you were talking about earlier as well. What, from your depths of heart, what kind of message, what counsel or advice would you like to give to the big dreamers in our audience who are ready to live the dream? Just one or 2 things that you'd like to share from one dreamer to another.
I think whatever sort of practice you have for tuning into your heart daily is probably the best thing you can do, because that's challenging for me too. You can get lost, especially in, it's really empowering, important to know about marketing and optimization, all these things that we have to do and everything. And that's great in terms of getting you and your message and your dream out there. It's important to know that stuff, but it's so loud out there. It's so loud, and you can suddenly think, oh, maybe I should be doing this, or, oh, look, that person did it that way, and and it happens to, I'm sure it happens to all of us, right? Because it happens to me all the time. and any practice to be able to tune into your heart, your mind, whatever it is, to really remember and feel what it is that pushes you forward and what it is that you really want to do, because that truth is the thing that's gonna, you know,
I think
I
that's
don't know.
the best advice you could possibly get. Oh my gosh. And what a wonderful thing, because we might have heard that a million times. We get to hear it again today, because today is the day to connect to our heart once again and let the dream just continue to sprout. So I want to ask you, you're giving a free gift to the audience who's listening to us right now. What is that free gift?
Yeah, if you sign up to my email list, you get a free download of the song version, my song version of Llama Llama Red Pajama, which is a book by Anna Dewdney, a children's book, and it happens to be the first song I ever wrote. And so it's a download. It's not for sale anywhere. I never like officially have the rights to it, so I'm not going to commercialize it or anything like that, but you can download it and listen to it as often as you'd like and read along. And it's perfect for that 0 to 5 age group. So if you work with kids or have kids or anything.
Oh,
yeah.
Good. And so we're also going to put up a link to your YouTube, so if you want to subscribe to your YouTube as well. But the way that we can support you is to sign up for your email list, and then we can spread the news about your YouTube channel for someone knows someone with kids, and here you are with this bright, shiny smile, and why don't we give that to our children?
Yeah.
I love it. It's
yes.
great.
Yes.
Anything else you want to share with us that where we can find you?
Yeah, I'll just say that my website is mymissnina.com, not just missnina.com, but mymissnina.com. And the name of the video show is the Miss Nina Weekly Video Show on YouTube. So if you look that up, you should find it. And that's about, I think that's it for now. There's music. I'm on iTunes and Amazon and stuff like that if you ever wanted to download any of the music and that sort of thing.
So the first place we can find all of those things on your website, and I'll be putting a link on that too. What I love about your website, by the way, it's so colorful. You have bright balloons, and you have cupcakes and so much fun. I want everyone to know she has a hot pink guitar. I mean, come on, she is just fun. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for living your dream. I want to say thank you for following your heart. You're making the world a better place every day, and I'm honored that I got to interview you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for creating this summit and doing this. It's such an honor to talk to you. Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.